Okay, I'll do that.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Just in terms of a brief introduction, what we're going to be covering today is an overview of iPlant cyber infrastructure with a little bit of in-depth and hands-on with the iPlant DataStore. We're going to be having another DataStore workshop where we go a little bit more in-depth with it, especially in terms of the command line software, and that will be happening in a week or two. I forget the schedule. I'm sure all of you know it much better than I do. But I do want to introduce Nicole Hopkins, who is one of the... I have to ask you to hold off the applause because we will just be here all day for Nicole. I don't know what to say. So this is Nicole Hopkins. She is a manager of all the science analysts here at the University of Arizona. She has worked with the project pretty much since day one, incredibly familiar with all the technologies, and I cannot think of a better person to introduce what iPlant has to offer from a perspective of many different kinds of user groups and user types and scientists and people in general. I'm Eric Lyons. Feel free to harass me at any point in the presentation or after the presentation. And just to remind you again, start downloading iDrop. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole, including the power of the clicker.
Oh, the power of the clicker. Excellent. So, let me get the screen. Thank you. Okay. What's the allow? Okay, so show of hands, how many of you have actually heard of iPlant before, or have actually gone there and looked at something aside from registering? Okay, so y'all have a little bit of familiarity with what we are. Again, I'm Nicole. I've been with the project for a little over 5 years, so not really since the get-go, but more or less since the Hello World days of actually building the interfaces that you're going to see today. So I spent a lot of time talking to the community, figuring out what their needs were, and trying to figure out how are we going to build whatever cyber infrastructure is. So we're actually going to start with that. Go here. So what is iPlant? In the beginning, we were actually funded by the NSF to provide cyber infrastructure for researchers in the plant sciences. We've now expanded beyond the plant sciences, and we're now encompassing all of life science. And the cool thing about iPlant is we actually develop the infrastructure in such a way that it's not tied to any one domain of life. A lot of people get confused with iPlant and think, oh, we're a database, and there's all this data about plants, and it's not. We actually can connect to a lot of different databases. We like to sort of tout ourselves as it's a building block for science. We have a lot of different platforms that you can use, lots of different things that you can leverage as you're trying to get your experiments done. And so as a part of this, because I talk a lot, people get tired of hearing me, I've embedded a lot of videos that we've created. These are all on our YouTube channel, and yes, we have one. So if you go to YouTube when you're searching for stuff, my kids are on it all the time, but you can go ahead and look for iPlant Collaborative. There are a lot of videos there, not only these quick 1-minute videos you're going to see, but also some instructional videos. Some videos of other workshops that have been actually recorded and saved. So I highly recommend you take a look at those if you have some spare time, or maybe you want to do something on the weekend aside from Netflix. So go ahead and get started with just a high-level overview of what iPlant is. And
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Eric totally hooked me up.
Can't even manage or share your data because it's just too large. iPlant can help. iPlant is an easy-to-use cyber infrastructure that's built for data and analysis in a collaborative environment. iPlant provides storage, access to high-performance computing, and collaborators who can help you solve life science research problems. With iPlant, researchers have access to the best scalable resources for analyzing big data sets. iPlant provides tools to assemble and annotate sequences, analyze phenotypes, and integrate environmental data. iPlant lets you store all of your research data and efficiently share it with your collaborators around the world. You can use hundreds of bioinformatics tools without knowing the command line. iPlant's cloud platform and APIs let you customize tools and use them across the life sciences. The infrastructure is also invaluable in educating the next generation of scientists. With access to the world's most powerful open science platforms, iPlant brings you from data to discovery. Kickstart your research today. Sign up for your user account at www.iplantcollaborative.org.
The longest domain name ever. So, cute, quirky, kind of high-level overview of what iPlant is. It's 1 minute or less. It's sort of our elevator speech. But now you don't really have much more of a concept of what iPlant is. So I want to go a little bit more in detail into the different platforms that we provide. One thing that I kind of left off of here is our educational platform. Is anybody here teaching? Okay. So we have an educational platform called DNA Subway, which is a pretty linear path that you can take with students if you're trying to teach them how to do RNA-seq, do phylogenetic analysis, do annotation, things like that. They have different lines that you can take, and we can hook you up with somebody if you're interested in learning more about that. One of the things that's really big with that project right now is something called DNA barcoding, and so they've had a lot of experiments done with that, so we can point you to those resources if it's something you're interested in leveraging. It's kind of a nice way to introduce people into bioinformatics, but it's a very straight path. You use this and you go here, and you don't really have an understanding of which tools are going on behind the scenes, nor is it necessarily connected to the iPlant DataStore, which is really, I think, the crux of what iPlant is about. The DataStore, I like to say it's the Dropbox for science, and the reason I use that metaphor is because I think everybody's familiar with Dropbox. By providing this data storage element close to the resources where you can actually run the jobs, it actually helps make things go a lot more quickly for you. So everybody that signs up gets 100 gigabytes for free to start of storage space, and we can take you up to 1 terabyte if needed. I've actually just had a couple of collaborators this week say, hey, you know, I'm teaching a class, I'm going to need a little bit more storage space. It's pretty easy for us to approve that. Anything above 1 terabyte, 4 terabytes, we want to talk with you a little bit about some management plans and things that you might need, but it's pretty simple to get as much storage as you need. And Eric will go a little bit more into that. I'm going to go show you another cute little minute tour of the data store.
Welcome to the iPlant Data Store. The iPlant Data Store allows you to manage and share your data across iPlant's tools and services. With the iPlant Data Store, all users have an initial 100 gigabyte allocation, with terabyte allocations available. Your data is automatically backed up, and there are a number of easy ways to upload, download, and share your data. You can store any type of file related to your research, move files seamlessly between iPlant platforms, automate file transfers, and share files with lab members, collaborators, and communities. There are multiple ways to access the iPlant Data Store, including point-and-click methods such as through the Discovery environment or iDrop Desktop, and through the command line. The Discovery environment offers features for simple upload and download of small files, bulk uploads and downloads for files and folders, and imports from URLs. iDrop Desktop is a standalone application which allows you to drag and drop files and folders between your local computer and the iPlant Data Store. There's no size limit, and you can also synchronize folders. iCommands offers full flexibility. You can access the data store through the command line, enabling the ability to script and automate data transfers or access from remote terminal or server. Need more help? Access the user forums at ask.iplantcollaborative.org.
That's going to be a repetitive theme, the ask.iplantcollaborative.org, and I'll go into that a little bit more as we go through this wonderful presentation. So the next thing that I like to talk about, again, everything in iPlant I like to think of as a progression. So we start off with maybe the DNA Subway tool, where people are saying, okay, this is the straight path to get certain kinds of analyses done. The next level is the discovery environment. From there, it allows you to do those same sorts of analyses that you can do using DNA Subway, except there's more flexibility. There are different tools that you can swap in at different steps. You can script your own pipelines to put them together. You can integrate your own tools pretty easily, and you can very easily access the data that you've stored all from within the discovery environment. There's also some really cool functionality for annotating your data when you're in there, and by annotation, in this case, I mean putting comments on, making remarks, sharing those with other people, so that you can actually collaborate with other users on your data as you're trying to get your experiments done. So we'll do another ooh, wow, another little video here.
Welcome to the iPlant Discovery Environment, a simple interface to hundreds of bioinformatics apps, powerful computing, and data. The iPlant Discovery Environment is a platform that can run almost any bioinformatics application. It's seamlessly integrated with data and high-performance computing, and it's user-extensible, so you can add your own applications. From the data panel, you can upload and download files and folders, share files via URL, or share files and folders with other users. From the Apps panel, you can run hundreds of installed bioinformatics apps, build automated workflows, modify apps, or integrate new ones. From the Analyses panel, you can monitor job status and find results, cancel jobs or relaunch jobs, and view a detailed job history. Need more help? Visit the iPlant user forum at ask.iplantcollaborative.org.
So at last count with the discovery environment, we had about 467 different bioinformatics applications that would be available, all with the user interface. So if you're used to working on the command line, what we do is we actually take those binaries and wrap them in a way that people who aren't used to working on the command line can just look at a GUI interface and put in the information that would normally be required on the command line to run. And then that job runs for them and returns the results back to their data folder in the discovery environment. So it's pretty easy. But we also have the ability to run things at the command line from a couple of different places. The next step up that I like to say, and it's not really, it is a step, but it's a little just a different kind of computing platform, and this is Atmosphere. Atmosphere is actually similar to, anybody familiar with Amazon Web Services? Okay, it's a very similar kind of metaphor, where you can check out virtual machines that have tools that are already installed. You can check out a virtual machine that has nothing installed and install stuff. You can go in and teach yourself the command line and do things that people tell you never to do, like rm-rf, and see what happens. And it doesn't hurt anybody, except for you, if you've actually done some things on that machine. But it's a really great tool you can leverage in the classroom to teach scripting. You can also leverage these to actually run different kinds of analyses. It takes that sort of heavy processing that normally happens on your own laptop out into a virtual machine, so it frees up the memory and the things that are actually on your computer for you to do some other things. So I'm going to go ahead and show you yet another video on this one.
Welcome to Atmosphere, custom cloud computing for life science. Atmosphere is a cloud computing service designed for life sciences. It's simple, one-click access to over 100 virtual machine images. It's flexible, fully customize your software setup, and Atmosphere is powerful. It's integrated with iPlant computing and data resources. With Atmosphere, you can choose an existing image or customize your own. Instances of up to 16 cores and 128 gigabytes of RAM are available. You can access your instance via shell or VNC, and you can share your image with selected users or make them public. There are a lot of reasons to use Atmosphere. Some of the popular ones include running the software and data that are currently monopolizing your laptop or desktop. Many Atmosphere images are desktop enabled, and that allows you to run visually oriented programs, those with a graphical user interface. With Atmosphere, you have sudo access, which allows you to manage complex dependencies without the need for an administrator. Atmosphere also allows you to provide a uniform computing setup for your lab while working with collaborators and while teaching students. Atmosphere also allows you to make your own software available to a larger user community. See the complete manual online at www.iplantc.org/atm3. Need more help? Visit the iPlant user forums at ask.iplantcollaborative.org.
You remember nothing else from today. Ask.iplantcollaborative.org. Take that home with you. Okay, so next level up, I don't have the video, I'm really sorry, but is our science APIs. And so we have something called Agave, which is sort of for very technologically advanced users. Though I'm sitting in on enough meetings with this, let me just preface this by saying, I don't know the command line. I like to do things in Atmosphere and try and do that, but as I sit in on these calls with people who are trying to make use of the APIs, I'm actually starting to understand it. So I've progressed from being very GUI all the way through to almost understanding how to interact with an API, which is kind of a scary thing, but at the same time, they're pretty easy for people to navigate. We've tried to make the APIs very easy to interact with, and there's a ton of documentation at a link. You can search for just a Agave API, and this information is available for you. There's a software developer kit. There's also command line tools that you can use. And the APIs are actually also able to connect to the iPlant data store or to your own resources. So if you have servers that you've set up that you'd like to go ahead and leverage to run compute or something like that, you can do that all through Agave. So if you want more information about that, we have a workshop coming up probably end of October-ish, where we can talk to you a little bit more about how you can leverage Agave. At this point, do we have any questions? Yes.
When you guys were talking about being able to move your data sets from the interface to other places very easily, I mean, are you guys directly linked into like NCBI and these other?
We have
other
applications
databases?
where you can actually grab the data from NCBI,
Okay.
and it is on our roadmap to have a concept called the data commons, where we can interact with external repositories that make their data available. So for example, NCBI, SRA is part of that, GenBank, and then also to be able to easily push data that you've generated in iPlant to those repositories with the appropriate metadata, making sure that everything is configured the way it's supposed to do. It's actually a pretty big effort that we have going on right now.
Yeah, that's
So-
the one, because it seems like for all publications these days, they need it, everything in a general.
They need everything, but we plan to give you more.
Okay.
So the plan with the data commons is to have a history for my data got uploaded on this day, and then it was transformed into this, and then it was transformed into this, and in the end, you can see for the file it's generated or the files that are generated at the end.
Oh, it actually
Where did
shows
it begin?
the analyses all the way
Exactly.
through. Oh, beautiful.
Exactly. That's the goal, which is a beautiful goal.
Yeah, I do want to add just one thing here. iPlant's data store really is not meant to replace a lot of the existing
Right.
permanent repositories.
Sure, yeah.
So things where if you do need to go ahead and register your sequences or genomes at NCBI, you still need to go ahead and definitely do that.
Right.
But the way iPlant's data store works in terms of being underlying infrastructure that can help tie into those places, we can make it, we being iPlant, can make it easier in terms of helping you make sure that your data is tagged correctly, marked up with metadata.
Yeah, that seems to be the trick.
Yeah, to do that markup. But the other thing too is once you do have your data within the data store, they are working on ways that you can register unique DOIs so that you can reference those data in the future, as well as providing a bunch of other tools to gain access to it. But for the most part, view it as a good place to have your data located in terms of the work that you're actively doing, specifically when it comes to collaborations and needing access to large compute resources to process it. There are options to publish those data in what they call the data commons, but not to sort of view that as like a
The final
great
resting
dumping
place.
place for
Right.
large sets of data that you don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I was just interested in the ease of exporting that or pushing that out to places that are meant to be data stores. Like
Yeah,
that, like NCBI.
there's
Terror.
greater or lesser ease of which we can do that, and what it really comes down to is just how much do they enforce some particular data format, and how hard is it to make sure that data that may be a little bit messy can fit into that format. So NCBI is ridiculously strict with their data
Right.
formats.
Yeah, I've run into those issues.
Yeah, and so getting into the TBL format, no problem, but making sure that it's going to be fully valid with all of the little nuances that they create, you're still going to have to go in there and do some
By hand.
by hand. I mean, it seems unavoidable with NCBI, no matter how good the automation tools are. But that's just personal experience.
Yeah.
But we do
That's
want to
it.
be able to provide a platform to make it easier for you, so you don't have to download it to your desktop, mess around with it, do all of that, and then re-upload it. We're hoping to be able to make those services available, so it's a little bit easier. And right now, if you wanted to share, say, a data set with the gentleman sitting next to you, it's very easy to do that. But for these canonical repositories, there's a little bit more work that's involved. And so we've really been focusing on the metadata that's required to make that something that's easy and make sure that it's maintained throughout the whole time. Any other questions? We'll move on to more Prezi. So the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is how to get started with iPlant. And so all of you went through the first hurdle, of actually going to the website, clicking on the user portal, or maybe you just went directly to user.iplantcollaborative.org to register. But I do encourage folks to go ahead and take a look at the website. There's a lot of information here, not only about all the different platforms and tools, but also some information about the science that we have, what we can help you with, ways to get started with us, and then some information about upcoming events like these sorts of workshops or workshops that are happening across the country where we're actually going to be making appearances, like at PAG and things like that. And then our news is constantly changing. We also have some success stories that are here, so people who have leveraged the platform in the past, how they've done it, what they've been successful doing, all of this is up on the website. So highly recommend you take a look, if for nothing else, because the pictures are pretty. So moving on to the user portal, you've all had some experience with this, hopefully. This is also where you go if you forget your password. You can totally go here and reset your password as many times as you need. Yeah, because, yes, it's a great place to go. Sometimes we get a lot of that. I can't log in. Well, you do need to go here occasionally. From there, we also have something called the iPlant Learning Center. And this, again, is accessible from the website. We have things that will tell you how to navigate the platform, set up your account, those typical administrative things. But then also, we have some tutorials for how to get some science done within the iPlant, either the Discovery environment or Atmosphere. And so those tutorials are based upon publications that have been put out for either association workflows or for RNA-seq, and just gives you an example of how you could actually do those same sorts of things leveraging the iPlant infrastructure. So the Learning Center is continuing to evolve, more tutorials get added on a pretty routine basis, but it's a really great data point to go to. Along with the Learning Center, we have some extensive documentation on the iPlant Wiki. The things that are highlighted in red over here, I have no idea how to make them. Oh, there they are, yay. These little highlights are user manuals. These are more technical manuals, so if you're going in and you're like, I don't understand what this thing is supposed to do, you can go to, say, the Discovery Environment User Manual, take a look and see if you can find information about how to do something. So we try and keep this as up-to-date as humanly possible. Our platform is continuing to evolve, so the documentation is trying to keep current with that as well. The other thing we have here, which is kind of key, is our application list. So for every tool that's in the Discovery environment, there is a page that should tell you what that tool does, give you a link to an example data format so that you can see how is this data supposed to go into this particular tool. And it'll give you some example parameters to test and some sample data sets that you can actually test these tools out and see if it's giving you some results that make sense.
And I think most of those also have the email address of the person who integrated them. So when they don't work or they seem incomplete, you now know who you can go harass.
Not necessarily on the pages, but in the Discovery environment itself, there is a link to email the person. And if you see Nicole at iPlant, don't do it. So, next. The last place we've heard about over and over again in every video is the iPlant user forum. This is a wonderful resource. This is a sort of like BioStars, if you guys ever gone there, or Seek Answers, something like that, which is a forum where the user community can come and post a question, and somebody is actually going to try and answer that for you. A lot of science questions get asked here. So if you have a question about, is there a manual for RNA-seq? That question was actually asked, and we did try and post an answer for that. Or I'm having trouble navigating the data grid. What do I need to do? There should be answers for that here. So there are different tags that you can subscribe to. You can also just search for text. Say you're having trouble running MoTi. You can look and see if somebody else had the same problem. These answers should be here. We try and answer within 24 hours. Some of them go a little bit longer. But there is a wealth of information here. And you are welcome to post. As soon as you sign up for an iPlant account, you also are able to access the forums and post any question that you may have there. So I highly encourage folks to go ahead and take a look and see what is available at the forum. We're working on having sort of an FAQ, the most frequently asked questions kind of tags for things, so that people who have repetitive questions, and it happens a lot, can actually get the best answer for what it is that they're trying to do. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on, because I think probably you're here to figure out, can I really use this in my lab? Is it going to make sense for me to leverage this, right? So I'm very proud to be a part of the team now that actually provides support to the user community. So I do that through the forums, I do that through email, I do that through phone calls, and all kinds of things. But we have a number of different types of support that we can provide, everything from technical support, I can't get my data in, to scientific support, like which is the right analysis for me to use in this context, and we try and point you to the tools that are available. And then finally, like a mixture of both. So to begin with, we have a really great program called Powered by iPlant. And because we have made these building blocks for science, we have APIs, we've got different ways that you can leverage the system. People who have developed external platforms can actually federate or integrate with iPlant, leverage the data store, leverage the job execution framework, leverage our authentication services, and go ahead and be part of the iPlant community. So to go very quickly over a few of them, over here we have something called Koji that might have been developed by somebody sitting over there, which is a platform for comparative genomics. This actually interfaces with the iPlant data store as well as our authentication system. So if you log into iPlant's discovery environment, you want to look at something in Koji, you don't have to log in again, and the services exist to be able to go back and forth and do that sort of thing. We also have something called the Taxonomic Name Resolution Service. Is anybody here ecology minded? Yeah, all right, so this is my baby. So the TNRS was actually developed with a group. It's running on iPlant servers. Basically, you can upload a list of species names, and we will try and figure out what you actually meant when you typed it in, check for spelling errors, and then try and give you a result back based on which database you want to access as to what that accepted name might be. And in a lot of cases with scientific names, people continue to perpetuate possibly the wrong name throughout publications because they're just copying and pasting something. And so this is actually something that tries to say, according to this authoritative source, this is what this name actually is. And so this is an easy way for people to check their list. It's pretty highly frequented, yes.
Does it also track like historical record, like name changes in species as they change? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not TNRS that does that, it's the underlying databases. So when you put your names in and you get, here's the accepted name, there's actually a link for you to go back to that actual database, like Tropicos is one of them. And Tropicos does a pretty good job of showing the historical record of this was once a synonym for this name. And so you can do that traceability there, so yeah. And then finally we have something called BISC. Anybody here deal with image data? Okay. So BISC is our actual image analysis platform, and we say it's ours because it is running on our systems here, and a lot of the modifications that have been made have been very specific to what our iPlant user base needs. So this is where you can actually upload tons of image data, do different kinds of analyses. There's ways to actually integrate different analyses that you may have into this platform, and again, this communicates directly with the iPlant data store and also with the authentication services. So it's a pretty sweet platform. So, moving on from Powered by iPlant, the other thing that we can do is actually offer something called extended collaborative support. And in these cases, what usually happens is we work with either groups in the community who have algorithms that are like, it's just not running fast enough. So we can work with groups to actually scale those algorithms. We can also work with groups who maybe have just lots of data that they have to try and organize and manage and leverage HPC resources to actually process. And so a really good example of this is a group called the 1KP project, or the 1,000 Plant Transcriptomes project. We actually worked with them to get their data into the system, get their data organized, figure out what happened when their samples weren't necessarily coming out right, get things set up in the database for them, do some of the analyses with them, and help them get pipelines set up so that they could actually publish, hopefully soon, their paper about the 1,000 green plant transcriptomes. And this just actually shows a photo of, here was the NCBI tree, here's how much more has been added to the tree with the data sets that they've actually been able to analyze. So we also, you can access this data from the iPlant mirror site or from the discovery environment or from the data store generally. There is a directory for 1KP data. It's all available for folks to take a look at. And that was a labor of love. So finally, we offer something called community support. Not finally, there's lots of other things we do. But this is where we work with different people in the community, large groups of users. For example, people who might be dealing with animal genomes, with iAnimal, because we have to put an I in front of everything, and I'm sure at some point we're going to get sued for that. But there's iAnimal, iMicrobe, and i5K, which is animal, microbial, and arthropod data. So we're working with those groups to figure out, what kinds of interfaces might they need, what kinds of tools, what kind of metadata do you need for your data sets, how can we help you organize that and make it more available for people in your community. Similarly, we're working with people who are dealing with ontologies. This is the crop ontology. There's an effort that's going out to try and get all of that together. Botanical Information and Ecology Network, we've worked very extensively with them on a number of different things, including TNRS, and now we're also branching into groups who have lots of trait data, figuring out how can we help you get that organized. Not necessarily saying, well, this is what you must do, but listening to what their needs are and trying to point them to the right pieces of the platform for them to be able to get that done. In some cases, we're actually helping to develop things with them because it makes sense for us to extend our infrastructure into those different domains. And then finally, I will say on this slide at least, our team is constantly available via email. We can set up a phone consultation with you. We can come down and visit you in your lab, whatever it is that you might need. We're more than happy to assist you walking through the infrastructure. We do a lot of calls via WebEx with collaborators across the country who are coming to us saying, I just have this data set and this is what I want to do with it. A lot of times we'll just get on the phone with them and say, okay, this is where you can go. These are the things that are available. Let us help you get this organized and structured, and they're on their way. And so we are available for those sorts of consultations on a regular basis. In some cases, things can be answered just via email, but in some cases, there's just sometimes a little bit more that's required. So we are happy to have these consultation calls with anybody who has a question about how to use the infrastructure, or if you have building access, we're on the 4th floor. Pop on up. We're happy to answer any questions you might have there as well. And with that, I get to be done talking. So if there are any questions at all, I'm happy to let you guys email support. I see that. You can also go to Nicole@iPlantCollaborative.org. I would prefer that you use support because then you can track what's going on, and if for some reason I decide I'm not looking at my email that day, somebody else can also get back to you. But we can also have you check the forums for any questions you may have. And at this point, are there any other questions? Yes? No?
Sorry, I can't log in.
No, you can't log in? Oh, you can't log in?
Yeah.
You can always change your password. Well, you can't sign up?
for several times, I don't know why.
Let me go take a look. And this is why I'm here.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, you can go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, please talk
Right.
now. We can take a look at you.
I would like to give Nicole a round of applause.
Okay.
That's all right.
All right, so as she gets help there, and as I get set up, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about yourself? Let's start over there on that side. And speak loudly, because I'm really hard of hearing.
My name is Eden. I'm an undergraduate student, and I'm doing research with one of the labs here on campus. And so,
What lab?
Basil, I don't know.
What kind of work do you guys do?
We do some bioinformatics stuff. I'm not a biology person, but I'm a programming person.
Computer science?
Yeah.
At one point or another? Okay.
And
Cool.
so they do a lot of biology research.
Fantastic. This guy here, I've never seen before.
Dave.
This is Dave.
Hi, Dave.
My boss works with iPlant quite a bit, Rob Merchant, and I just want to get more of a general overview of what's up there because now I keep saying, we're going to use iPlant stuff. And we don't because it's up there on the 4th floor. But so
You guys only come up when you're armed, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Usually with advanced nerf weaponry.
So I want to learn about more of it, but part of my, especially because I'm working on iRods for Drupal,
Oh, you
and
can
that
remember
might
that?
get involved here
Don't
somehow,
do that.
and because
Don't.